Do you have mentors in your life, or have you had mentors in your life that have made a huge impact? Or how important is a mentor, even just a person, a friend, family member, whoever it is, to give you the insight, or even just show up to this job on time, or how
Dude,
important is that?
it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. My mother used to tell me as a child, show me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are.
Mm.
And that couldn't be any more true in this day and age. But the beautiful thing about me is someone inspired me to believe in me in the beginning of my journey. Um, and the funny thing is at that time, I was not believing in me. I still didn't have that self-esteem. And I was still in treatment when it was a fellow by the name of Chris Herring. He played for the Denver Nuggets, the Boston Celtics, NBA guy.
Yeah.
He's one of my biggest mentors and dear friends. And whenever I have something heavy, I call him and run it by him now. We've become since close, but at the time I walk into detox of that 90-day program, and I had been really disconnected from reality for a long time. I had been dehumanized and I was living on this like animalistic level where I just
Full survival mode.
legit just
Yeah.
live to use and use to live.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, if people had to love me from a distance, because like if you told me you loved me, I equated that to $10 and I
Mm.
got over on you. I robbed you. I lied to you. I stole from you. And we just wash, rinse, repeat that until people finally had fucking grown sick of it and said, look, we love you, but from over here, like
Mm.
don't come this way. So I had lived like that for a long time, rightfully so. I had created that outcome. And I walked into this detox and I just finished my intake and I walk in and they're all watching this fucking screen and Chris Herring's video is playing. There's this part in the documentary where his therapist calls him in and the therapist called him Mr. Basketball. Mr. Basketball, come in here. He walks in. He said, I want you to do me a favor. And Chris said, yeah, what's that? He said, take this phone. And he throws the phone to Chris. And he said, I want you to call your wife. And I want you to do the biggest favor for your family that you ever do. I want you to tell your wife, to tell your children that you've been killed in a car accident.
Mm.
Because at this point, he could not stay sober, right? He was a vicious heroin addict, overdoses, just destroyed everything that came in his path. And the therapist is like, just tell your kids you're dead. Like, let them go. Stop taking these.
Yeah.
And I could relate to that. And I'm like, dude, that's how I feel. Because I always felt like if I just died, life would be so much better for my mother, right? Like she could actually be at peace.
Yeah.
And I really wanted her to stop hurting. I fucking did. God knows I did. And I could relate to that. Life would have been better for my loved ones if they just knew that I finally, succumbed to my addiction. And I watched that documentary. And for the first time, I'd say probably in at least a year, I shed a tear. And then all of a sudden, another tear. And then it just fucking opened up. And I just started crying so much in that day room of that detox that I had to walk out. I couldn't even, and I had just cried and cried. And I had started to feel like humanized again.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I realized that although I don't fucking believe in me, I do believe in him. And through believing in him, I then learned how to believe in me. And his story incentivized and motivated me that I too could fucking do it. And that was, so now I have this video that does really well and it plays all over. It's really preferential in treatment centers and jails and, it's millions of views. And
you're giving back what was given to you.
And people are like, dude, I saw your video. It inspired me. And I'm like, dude, I saw Chris's. Right. And then it's this video. It's called Tomorrow's Gonna Be a Better Day. It's fucking crazy views. And I remember I was in Ohio at a speaking engagement, and the guy who was kind of like setting it up, he's like, oh, well, we have 3 hours to kill. There's this guy at this news studio who records people's stories. Do you want to stop by and do it? And I'm like, sure, whatever. And I sat down and did it, and literally it was just in passing, and it turned out to be one of the most powerful things that I've ever put out. Legit, and it was a time killer.
Wow.
And you can pull it up and you see it. It's just me sitting in a chair but it timing and alignment. God took advantage of that, and it plays everywhere. And if I could tell you how many people call me a day or my hotline and say, I saw that video, like I need help. And So,
Mm.
you know, that inspired me to do that. And then throughout the rest of my journey, you know, I have probably a handful of people who I rely on like that for like, and then even with opening my new treatment center, Redemption Addiction Treatment Center, I got to a point where things were really good and they flowed very evenly, you know, and there was no issues. Everything was safe. And my shout out to one of my biggest mentors, business partner, Matt Gannam, with Aftermath Addiction Treatment Center in Massachusetts. He was tasked with the position to kind of guide me in the beginning of our relationship when we worked for another organization. He then left that organization to open up his own. And then about a couple years after it, he was like, what are you doing? Like you can do better. You can help more. Like you've made someone else enough money for a long enough period of time. Like, why don't you collect your resources? You've acquired the knowledge. And he saw in me what I didn't see in myself.
Yeah.
And then you know, so those mentors, they're everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
When I'm steering my ship, man, we're fucking going down.
So the Tale of Two Cities lines, I remembered it. It was the best of times and the worst of times, right?
Yeah.
Did you, applying that to your life, do you think, was it harder to enjoy, you know, the great memories of filming and being with your friends and, you know, doing all the shows and movies because of the using and the addiction? Or did you find that now you can kind of look back on it more positively, that you're over the hump?
I would say it was all so strategically written by my higher power that I was like, it just blows my mind looking back. And I truly believe that I was blessed with the ability to create this rather big platform that only came by virtue of all those pieces of work, you know, and the Jackass, the Viva La Bam, the Sirius Satellite Radio, the Bam's Unholy Union, the Where the Fuck is Santa when we went to Finland to find Santa Claus, and all this different stuff, where my role was to be just this crazy, you know, drug addict guy who didn't care about anything and did whatever, wherever, with whoever, to then be used for a greater good later on and be saved and blessed with recovery, to now use that platform where I'd gathered the masses from my fucking train wreck appearances to say, like, this is my deal. And if you think that this is something that might interest you, give me a call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So looking back, I wouldn't take it back. I'm so grateful I had the opportunity, and I believe it was done by design.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always, well, it's like, it's very obviously turning pain into purpose, right? And everything you went through and all the experiences you had, all the information you garnered, all the pain you had led you to where you're at now, so you can actually help and inspire and change people's life that need it now, you know. I have this thing I say all the time, you know, which I really adopted a couple years ago, but I always say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. And that for me, honestly, is I'm not where I want to be in my career. I don't know what's it, but it could be that one moment, whether my life sums up to this one moment where I meet this person at the exact moment I'm supposed to and change their life, and then they change 1 million or 100 million or whatever. Mm-hmm. If that's my journey and I don't achieve the things that I thought in my head with my ego that I was supposed to do, then I'm all right with that,
Legit.
you know? Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video.
And subscribe and hit the bell for a whole lot more to come.